A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Encouragement today for anyone living through grief and suffering. Lynn slipped into despair after her beloved teenage daughter Bethany died of brain cancer. Lynn has written a new devotional journal called Waiting Well with Jesus, Strength for the Journey Through Heartbreak to Hope, a 52-week devotional journal. Lynn also serves with the Wycliffe Bible Translators Australia in Victoria, and it's our great pleasure to welcome her to 2020 today. Lynn, welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me on your show.
Lynn, it's a real achievement writing a book, but obviously the circumstances surrounding you writing this book are just awful. Tell us your story briefly, Lynn. What happened?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, we were serving with Wycliffe Bible Translators and had enjoying a fruitful ministry. We'd been in PNG with our 4 children, and the year after we returned from that time over there, our daughter Bethany, who was just about to turn 15, started to experience some very nasty symptoms, which the doctors couldn't diagnose. She was just starting to lose function of her body in different areas, and her sight and movement and speech was starting to go. And so they were pretty desperate in trying to find what it was. And after about 6 weeks of tests, and had told us that it was the worst possible news. It was a very aggressive brain tumour that was inoperable and just infiltrating the brain like white ants eat through a house. And Bethany, she was a girl who always loved Jesus and wanted to get the most glory out of her life. That was her prayer. And so she made the remarkable declaration when this diagnosis came that, nothing has authority over her except Jesus. And if we have him and all he says is true, we have everything. And that's how she lived the next year as her body faded away, but inwardly her spirit was renewed day by day. It was quite incredible to see, Andrew.
Yes, she sounds like she was an amazing young Christian woman. And as a Christian parent, how did you and also your husband, how did you process that?
Wow. So we're talking about, that was 13 years ago now, which is hard for me to believe. We went through the highs and lows, obviously, of that journey, a lot of lows, crying out to God for some sort of answer at first to why this could possibly be happening. And those whys started to, morph into, what can we do and how can you use this, Lord? And we were very led by Bethany, actually, because although she had a couple of times crying for herself and what it meant for her, mostly she was really aware of God's presence through the journey, and she sort of took that baton of faith that we'd given her, and she ran right ahead of us, and she showed us how to live and to die well with hope. And so when I was actually with her in her presence, I felt very strengthened. And it was like we knew people from all around the world were praying for her, for us. It was when I left the room, Andrew, that I kind of collapsed and could not believe what was happening, and had to still parent 3 other children, 2 of them quite small. So, yes, it was a journey where we look back now and we see God's presence with us, but at the time we often didn't feel it.
Yeah, so, it's fair to say it was a real struggle. It wasn't like you were surrounded by this cloud of God's presence and you just sort of, walked through it. Every day was easier. It was just a hard journey, huh?
Oh, it was horrific. She went through horrific radiation and chemotherapy, and it was horrific. Yeah. We couldn't have done it without that eternal perspective that, Bethany's life was in God's hands and that he had a future for her, even though it looked like the future was being stolen.
Yeah, was she your eldest child or second eldest?
Second, eldest daughter. So we have a son, James, who's now given us 2 beautiful granddaughters. And we have Bethany's two younger sisters who are now just young adult women and all love the Lord, which is, again, I think part of Bethany's legacy to our family, because she really showed her brother and her sisters. She didn't give them any reason to be bitter against God in her suffering. She really, pressed into his promises, and they've had to work through that in their own grief too. And they have kept worshipping and loving him too, which is amazing.
That is amazing. And it's a credit to you and your husband, as well as Bethany, for encouraging them to keep their faith, even though life dealt a really cruel hand to your daughter. And when did you decide that you'd write this devotional as a result of your journey?
Sure. Well, during the year that Bethany was sick, we kept a journal together because she had lost most of her vision. And that was, the Lord just enabled us to write a devotional book called Heartbreakingly Beautiful back 10 years ago. And we self-published that with the help of our friends, Sons of Korah, the music band. And that's gone out around the world too to encourage people who are going through that suffering. After that was finished, that project, that's when I really started to, I think, feel the loss a lot more and cried out to God, well, how am I supposed to live now? I feel like we did that project and turned Bethany's journals into something that could encourage others going through the same. What am I supposed to do now, Lord? Because I may have to wait decades before I'm reunited with our daughter again. And how can I just live when I'm just feeling like part of me's died? So I just sense the Lord just urging me to look in his word for all the things he's asked us to do while we're waiting. And so I started to make a big list, and I got up to a lot of verbs that are right through the scriptures, and many of them are similar, of course, but this list began to grow, and the idea of sharing that began to grow as well. So this has been written really specifically for all people who are wanting to walk a deeper walk with Jesus, but particularly when you're in the midst of the fire, I suppose, and you're really just one thing to think about, one thing to do, one thing to dwell on that will help us wait well with Jesus.
Yeah, so when you say wait well with Jesus, you just mean in the midst of grief or suffering or tragedy that you somehow find the time just to wait on him and just seek him. Is that what you mean by that? Wait well with Jesus?
Yes, I think there's a very strong emphasis in the devotional about the witness of Jesus in our suffering, him as the man of sorrows, that he is really the only one who gets it. You feel very alone when you're going through things, and even if people have been through similar things, no one really understands the pain like God does. He is the one who actually really gets our pain. And so to sit with him and know Jesus as the pain bearer, so the witness of Jesus, and then just that sense of, waiting in the Bible is very tied up with hope, and that the idea of entwining our lives with him is the posture that we have while we're waiting for his promises to be fulfilled, which may take a long time, as we see with characters in the Bible. And so part of my journey has been to interview people who I see as have inspired me to wait well. People in the scriptures, people throughout history, and people I've met who've experienced some traumatic things, but I see them living a life that I want to emulate, and they've got some sort of secret that I think, I want to live a life like that. And so I've got 52 different stories throughout the devotional, or people who've experienced all kinds of loss, and yet are living a life still with grief, but with victory as well, and with hope, with great hope and abundance. So I hope that others can just enter into those stories as well, not just our story, but there's lots of stories there.
Yeah. So you've interviewed 52 other people who you believe journeyed really well through their grief, but I want to ask you, Lynn, if someone's listening to this today, what are your 2 or 3 top pieces of advice for people who are really journeying through grief and suffering? Or what would you say to people, just even as a very practical thing, just what worked for you?
What worked for me? I'm naturally an introvert, so I go very quiet and inward in my pain. And while there's a place for that, staying in that space can be very, harmful as well. So connecting with people, who are going to be healthy and help you is a really important thing to keep that connection with your family, and don't shut them out. Just try and do the journey together with the people God's put around in your life.
So let's stop there. So you're an introvert. So did you have to really make a conscious effort to engage with people and talk about how you're feeling and your struggles? That was a real effort for you, was it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It still is. It still can be. I find that, really life-giving on one hand, when you're talking with people. As I said, I've interviewed many who have inspired me to move on. But there's also been some really sad stories that have come my way that, threaten to sort of engulf me as well. So I think the other verb that I investigated, there's 52 of them, but one that's really meaningful to me is entrust. And that is how we need to entrust, our lives, our pain, the sacred things, the scarred things, the things that are soiled, the things that we can't fix, that we can't find. We keep entrusting them to God. And it's just a daily thing I've got to keep doing. When that worry comes, when that grief comes, just to actually practically, I've got a little space, where I actually put my worries, to God. And I find just continually entrusting our story to Him, and now seeing some of the redemption that He's bringing about is absolutely beautiful. In Bethany's legacy, she has a beautiful legacy with CBM, Christian Blind Mission, that helps women in Africa. Just the devotional book now that is able to help other people have the same sort of hope that she had, that she passed on to us. So
amazing. And have you got another piece of advice as well besides that? Something that really worked for you?
I think I was often very, very hard on myself. If I look back on the early days of the grief, I would, especially as a Christian, I think I thought that I should be handling it better, or that I shouldn't be sad anymore because of the hope we have. But I've come to understand that Christians can be the healthiest grievers on the planet. Because we have hope, we can actually grieve, and grieve well. We can do it in a healthy manner. We don't have to push our grief under the carpet or try and run away from our grief, fearing it. We can actually face it with Jesus, and as we process it with Him and go through it, He does bring us through into more spacious places and brings that comfort. So I ran away from the grief for sure in that first year, and so I'd say encourage people to be very gentle and kind to yourself, just as you might want to comfort other people. Allow that comfort to come to yourself as well.
Yeah, what great advice, Lynn. And I just want to thank you so much for being so honest and telling your story. And it's a really hard story. It's a really difficult road you've travelled down, but I think, like you said, especially as a Christian, it's good for us Christians to hear these stories, because I think all of us, when we're young, we have this naive view of the world and our own lives that sort of bad things happen to other people, but not to us, especially when we're serving God. And I'm just really sorry that you and your family have been through that. But I want to thank you for just being willing to share your story, and also to write this devotional. So if people want to get their hands on this devotional, how do they do that, Lynn?
Probably, if you're in Melbourne, you can contact me. I can get it to you. We've got a website that's Bethany's Legacy. It's www.be-blessings.com. So that's Bethany's Legacy.
So just repeat that website nice and slowly for us. So did you say BE Blessings or BE Bethany?
Yeah, BE-blessings.com.
BE-blessings.com.
Correct. So this is the legacy that Bethany, the B stands for Bethany, but it's our posture in the world to be blessings to others.
Yeah.
But it's available through Koorong now. So Koorong Bookstore or Amazon, you can grab a copy there as well.
Excellent. So if they Google it, what is the name of the devotional again?
So the devotional is Waiting Well with Jesus, Strength for the Journey Through Heartbreak to Hope by Lynn.
Yeah, so if people even Google that, they'll find it. And Lynn, I just want to thank you again for sharing your story and, just wish you all the best for the future in your family. And I pray this devotional is a real blessing and a source of comfort to many people all around the world.
Absolutely. That's our prayer too. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate the interview today.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.